Dr. Rob Gordon is an Australian who is a specialist in disaster psychology with over 25 years' experience supporting communities affected by disaster. While in New Zealand recently, he told us his views on the media's role in communicating to those who are still going through the claims process and the general public of Canterbury. Here's what he had to say and the response from local media commentators.
My name is Rob Gordon. I'm a clinical psychologist, and for about 30 years I've been a consultant to various disasters in Victoria and New Zealand. And my area of concern is the social recovery processes in the community and what happens to individuals as they go through the recovery process. It's very interesting to observe the role of the media after disasters, because under normal circumstances, often the media are very focused on the quick grab and the emotional content, because that's what grips viewers and readers. But both of those go against this stressed state of mind where I'm having a lot of trouble seeing the big picture and the long term and making complex decisions. The quick grab is going to say, this is the only thing that's important. But that's what my brain's doing anyway. It's saying, I've got to deal with this, I've got to deal with this. But to make a decision which is the foundation for my future, and that's what recovery is, it's not the fixing up of the past, it's the beginning of the future. And so it's got to be made looking ahead. In order to make that decision, I can't go with quick grabs. I've got to really put the whole thing together. And a very important thing is to be able to accept, just accept the complexity of the situation. So again, the quick grab is actually oversimplifying things in a false way. So I would really emphasise to the media to try and, even if you've only got a short segment, try and lay out how complex it is and where things fit in a bigger context. The second thing I do is emphasise that the more we can keep strong emotion out of it, the better people can think clearly. And I think this means probably a bit of a shift from the normal habitual way of doing it, which is to stimulate the emotion. Emotion puts our brains back into that adrenaline mode. So to try and show it from various people's points of view would be very helpful. The problems of the service providers, engineers, insurance people and so on, and that why it's often not possible for them to do it as we would like them, or on the speed. And most people can actually, when they understand someone else's situation, can say, oh, I didn't think of it like that. Because in the end, we're all egocentric when we're stressed, because we're all trying to get through our own problems and we don't understand each other, and so we stir each other up.
Well, I thought his comments were quite short and not really in as much depth as I would have liked to have seen, to be honest. So in a way, his criticism of the media for presenting short, sharp grabs, I might criticise him for in that particular statement, because I think it's oversimplifying to say that the media have oversimplified, to be honest. The fact is, I think the news media were faced with a situation that they've never been faced with before. How do you exaggerate or beat up a story when there's $40 billion worth of damage? You know, so I took from his comments that he felt the media were beating it up, or if not, they were only concentrating on the drama and the emotion.
I think Dr. Gordon raised some really interesting points. He was taking a broad view of media coverage over a long period of time, and he urged context, he urged an understanding of a variety of points of view. And I think that that is a really sound perspective, and that's what we do as a media organisation, is we cover people's points of view, often over a very long period of time. And that's one of the advantages of an organisation like the Press, is that we're here in the heart of the community and we really do get to understand people's stories and people's experiences.
The stories that we're seeing in the media are, I think, representative of what's happening in the larger community. So an 87-year-old woman who's waiting for her house to be repaired, she's not the only elderly woman in this situation, or elderly person in this situation, who is unlikely to get back into the house. You know, these people are going to die before they get back. And, you know, how do you over-dramatise something like that?
It's important to understand that People were emotional. This was a hugely profound event, and to cover it in a way that somehow minimised those experiences, I think would have been unfair to the people involved. That said, we never seek to sensationalise material. We really work hard to make sure that we place it in context and that we fairly represent people's experiences.
Whose responsibility is it to tell the entire story, to provide the background, the balance, the media to some extent, but there are a whole lot of other players in this as well, the council, the government, Sarah. The media is there to inform as quickly as possible, and to do that they have to talk about things that represent what's happening.
I think it's being rather unkind, actually. I think the television media, particularly in the Christchurch market, has been incredibly well prepared for this, and they've told the stories that needed to be told. There's absolutely nothing wrong with having emotion in a story. In fact, it's those who are brave enough to come to the media often have their EQC claims or insurance claims actually settled and dealt with. And it's easy to say sound bites, we can get too caught up in sound bites. Yes, that's true to a certain degree, but I think what he's forgetting that most of the journalists that work in the soundbite environment, mainly television news, are going through EQC, earthquake-related issues themselves. So although, yes, sometimes news has to be told in very short sound bites, it's a journalist's role to ensure they get out the most important information in a balanced and reasonable way.
Dr. Gordon makes a good point in so much as if you're already upset and stressed, it probably doesn't help to immerse yourself in old footage of earthquakes.
There is nothing wrong with an emotional story, because people who go to the media like Campbell Live, CTV, News Talk ZB, they're at their wits' end. They see no other place to go. They're at the last point of return. And I'm really proud of all platforms across the media, particularly in Christchurch, and how well they've performed.
I think the media have worked really, really hard to make sure that we do cover a range of responses. We've covered the immediate and breaking news, but we've also taken a longer view, looking at issues that affect a community over a much longer period of time. So I feel really very, very proud of what we've done.
He's right, but he's wrong at the same time.
Now, if all this discussion about psychology and the media's role in the earthquakes triggers something for you and you need to talk to someone, we want you to reach out, and it's really important that you actually make the contact with the people that can help you the most. Firstly, if you need free and independent advice about your insurance claim, you can contact RAS, or the Residential Advisory Service. There's also community law or the Canterbury Insurance Assistance Service. Now, if you need more emotional support, then you need to get in contact with social services or for somebody who can help you with temporary accommodation. And the people to contact there are the Canterbury Support Line or the Canterbury Earthquake Temporary Accommodation Service. And that's us for this week. It's been a big show. We've covered a lot of really sensitive topics. So please join us next week when we find out about the Christchurch City Council's building consenting process. We speak with MB, or the Ministry of Business, Innovation and Employment, about their technical guidance that they have for rebuilding and repairing properties in Canterbury, and also an insurance advocate who's going to give us his top tips for customers who are still dealing with their insurance claims. We'll see you then.